the weekly world news on SpringNectar TV, brought to you by Vibha Ramesh, Los Angeles, United States. First, the top headlines. NIH warned of uptick in COVID cases. Historic water shortage in West Coast. 7.2 magnitude earthquake shakes Haiti to unprecedented heights. Afghanistan falls in the hands of Taliban. Japan's economy recovers after easing restrictions. India ushers in 75th Independence Day. Work in progress on nasal vaccine as booster dose. Moving on to news in detail. On Sunday came a warning from the National Institute of Health about a spike in the number of COVID-19 cases. To that effect, the NIH warned that the United States might see single-day records of 200,000 cases of COVID-19 return to the dashboard. The alert came in view of the current situation where the United States is recording an average of at least 129,000 new single-day infections, which, according to Francis Collins, is a 700% increase. Dr. Collins remarked, "I will be surprised if we don't cross 200,000 cases a day in the next couple of weeks, and that's heartbreaking considering we never thought we would be back in that space again." He also urged the unvaccinated population to get their shots as soon as possible to prevent another wave. Further, in view of the highly contagious and deadlier Delta variant of the virus, federal health officials are in contemplation of a booster shot for the vaccinated. Meanwhile, the largest reservoir in the United States has declared a dire shortage of water. With the drying up of Lake Mead, most parts of the West Coast are facing water cuts. According to the Bureau of Reclamation, the lake is only at about 35% capacity and is expected to fall even further, triggering cutbacks in January 2022. In the words of the Deputy Commissioner at the Bureau of Reclamation, what we hoped we would never see is here. At the heart of today's announcement is also an acknowledgement of the hardship the drought has brought. Moving on, an earthquake measuring 7.2 on the Richter scale has killed over thousands and impacted millions of people in Haiti. The earthquake was known to have struck the country's southwest last Saturday, bringing down several lives and structures to mere rubble. The incident moved the Prime Minister Ariel Henry to immediately declare a month-long state of emergency. Rescue operations were set in motion, and on Sunday, rescue workers began their search for survivors. Latest news has it that at least 1,941 people were engulfed by the deadly tremor, and over 9,900 injured, and nearly 30,000 people left homeless. Several of the injured were airlifted to Port-au-Prince, while those that remained were in dire need of medicine, food, and tents. And if that wasn't enough, the Caribbean country was lashed by Tropical Storm Grace, leaving the country in darkness. The storm made rescue operations tougher, and more lives are being lost to the twin incidents. That said, the Pentagon and donor countries have increased their efforts to help Haiti. On one hand, the Pentagon announced the formation of a joint task force to aid in disaster relief, while on the other, the United Nations and the European Union will be providing financial aid to the tune of $8 million and $3.5 million, respectively. Over to Iran. In a bid to avert a fifth wave of the pandemic, the country had imposed a general lockdown for 6 days starting Monday. Subsequently, markets, public offices, as well as entertainment zones like theaters and restaurants are in observance of the lockdown from Monday through Saturday. The National Coronavirus Task Force that imposed the 6-day general lockdown has also instructed a domestic travel ban from Sunday through Friday. These strict measures came in view of the latest record of 466 deaths and 29,700 new single-day infections on Saturday. Moreover, the country's vaccination rate is far behind, with only about 3.5% of the population being fully inoculated. And in Afghanistan, the capture of Kabul marked the unconditional fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban. Hours after the capture, security officers at the presidential palace and checkpoints were replaced by Taliban fighters. Disturbing images and videos of women and children had started doing the rounds, even though the Taliban said that they had changed and that women will have more rights moving forward. However, people doubt that probability owing to the reputation created by the Taliban 20 years ago when they ruled Afghanistan. At that time, women had to wear burqa and had the liberty of stepping outside only when escorted by men. Meanwhile, United States President Joe Biden refused to reverse his decision to leave Afghanistan and had only increased deployment of U.S. troops in order to speed up departure of U.S. diplomats and Afghan allies. He said, "I was the fourth president to preside over an American troop presence in Afghanistan. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I would not and will not pass this war on to a filth." Over to India, the country celebrated 75 years of independence on August 15th. To this effect, over 1.5 crore Indians took to the digital world, wherein they recorded and uploaded the national anthem. The act was proof of the inherent strength and unity of the country. Meanwhile, the government announced that moving forward, August 14th would be observed as Partition Horrors Remembrance Day. In the words of Prime Minister Modi, "May the Partition Horrors Remembrance Day keep reminding us of the need to remove the position of social divisions, disharmony, and further strengthen the spirit of oneness, social harmony, and human empowerment." News on the COVID front has said that Bharat BioNTech is in the process of analyzing the efficacy of a combination of Covaxin followed by a nasal booster dose. To this extent, the chairman and managing director of Bharat BioNTech stated, "We are working on a combination of Covaxin followed by nasal so that Covaxin primes the system of innate immunity and the boost by the nasal which produces 3 immune responses. All 3 immunities are powerful and can protect a person from getting infected," he said. And on Monday, India's ambassador Tirumurthy addressed an emergency UN Security Council meeting in which he remarked that it's time for the international community to come together unitedly, rising above any partisan interests, to support the people of Afghanistan in their desire for peace, stability, and security in the country, and to enable all Afghans, including women, children, and minorities, to live in peace and dignity. Over to Japan, the easing of COVID restrictions put its economy on the road to recovery in the second quarter. With that, Japan joins the bandwagon of G7 countries that have bounced back after lifting COVID restrictions. Moreover, with a surge in exports, the world's third largest economy maximized the recovery of global trade. Commenting on the economic recovery in the midst of a spike in infections, Yoshiki Shinke, the chief economist at Dai-ichi Life Research Institute, remarked, "There's not much to be optimistic on the outlook, with the spike in infections heightening the chance of stricter curbs on activity. Japan's economy stagnated in the first half of this year, and there's a risk of a contraction in July-September. Any clear rebound in growth will have to wait until year-end." Moving on, New Zealand entered a national lockdown on Tuesday following the discovery of a single case of COVID-19. While this decision brought an element of surprise as well as ridicule from other countries, the tough strategy is expected to help contain the Delta variant. New Zealanders have been known to support tough anti-COVID measures, as a poll revealed that nearly 80% of the people rated the government's COVID-19 response as good and 59% excellent. As one of the country's prominent epidemic communicators put it, "If overseas commentators are surprised, then they haven't been paying attention. The vast majority of people understand what we're up against and are supportive of our response." As the last item in this week's bulletin, here's an interesting piece of news about the mathematical constant pi. For most people, the word pi would promptly elicit a mental image of the numbers 3.141, and for some, up to 15 digits after the decimal. But here's the cake. Pi has created a new world record level of exactness, hitting 62.8 trillion figures, thanks to Swiss researchers. That said, the supercomputer took 108 days and 9 hours to arrive at the figure. The current feat has defeated the previous record, which had achieved 50 trillion figures. With that, we bring you to the end of this week's news bulletin. I'll see you again next week with more world news on Spring Nectar TV. Enjoy your weekend.